This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not.
Welcome to the Warner Brothers podcast. My name is Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle, joined by Timmy. Kyle and I just getting back from Nashville. As you can tell from the hat, we had a wild week 2 of the NFL. Timmy, how are you? Kyle, how are you?
Doing great. Looking up on football here, I'd like to see a turn on a couple of these teams. But other than that, I think we got a lot of expected and then a lot of unexpected. So,
yeah, more unexpected than expected. Kyle, how are you?
I'm great. Still feeling the effects of Nashville a little bit, but confused by some of the outcomes in week 2. All around the league. That was one of the more confusing weeks. But you know what? I always say it, the first 4 weeks are pretty unpredictable. But this week, more than others, I feel like, just over the last couple of years. Very, very wild. Very wild. But it sets up for a great week 3. We got some must-wins very early on in the season. I know I got questions. So I'm looking forward to this episode right here.
Absolutely. Timmy, did you want to start off with what your little thing was, or do you want to end with it? Let's start off with it.
We can definitely start with it. I think it kind of rolls good with last week because we saw a ton of upsets last week. We saw the Ravens go down. We saw the Cowboys go down. A ton of teams that were just plus or minus 7-point favorites in a lot of these games. So this little segment, I don't know what we're going to call it. Upset watch. Don't get upset. I don't care. I got 3 teams that are underdogs, and I just want to talk about them.
I kind of like don't get upset. I kind of like that even for a title of like a show. Don't get upset would be kind of fire.
Go on. I got 3 games where the underdog, I believe, can at least make some noise, at least cover the spread, but potentially even win the game. So getting right into it, this Thursday night, we got Patriots-Jets. The Jets are 6-point favorites at home. I think this game has all the writing on the wall for an upset. We got 2 good defenses going up against each other. And the one thing that the Jets defense has struggled with is stopping the run. And that is what the Patriots has been doing really well over these last 2 weeks. So I think that these 2 things could just line up really well. And we see a low-scoring 15-12 game, something like that, where the Patriots just come out on top. What do you guys think?
So I completely agree with you, Timmy. I truly think that this is a game that has disaster, quote unquote, written all over it for the Jets. Going into the season, all of us were like, the Patriots are probably going to be one of the 5 worst teams in the league. And so far, they've looked like a very competent group. The thing about this year so far is teams are finding their identity. The Patriots just know what their identity is. They just don't have a lot of offensive talent, but it's okay. Defense, run the ball, be good on third downs. Let's not try to turn the ball over, and let's just try to be in every game late and see how it goes. And they've been sticking to that, and obviously they lost to the Seahawks in overtime, but they beat the Bengals week 1, and the Bengals just don't come out to play in the first couple weeks. We know that, but still beating the Bengals week 1, that's going to be maybe their highlight of the season. So you take it with you. They won the game. And you're going to New York. New York is obviously coming from Tennessee to New York too, so they haven't just been chilling at home. It is a Thursday night game. These Thursday night games are weird, as always. It's a division game, which also makes it even more weird. Gerard Mayo's first game as going against the Jets as the head coach, but it's also Aaron Rodgers' first game as the Jets quarterback going against the Patriots, really against a division opponent. Really against a division opponent because, he played a couple snaps against the Bills. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on here. I think the Patriots are definitely live for an upset, if not to cover that 6. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, Tim, you hit it right on the head. It's got all the makings of an upset, of a close, ugly game. The Jets, this is their 3rd game in 11 days, right? They started on Monday night. Then they play Sunday in Tennessee, right? After coming from the West Coast. So this is their home opener on a Thursday. Like you said, divisional opponent, a grinded out team, right? And the Jets defense has not looked like the defense we expected, right? They're going to be tired. Like you said, it plays right into the Patriots who want to run the ball. Patriots they're having success throwing the ball, but it's not their strength either. So I do think it's going to be close. I do expect the Jets to have the advantage. Rodgers, of course, he hasn't looked like prime Rodgers, but last week he was the difference in the game, and I would expect him to be the difference in this game too. If anybody knows about short week, divisional opponent, Thursday night, that type of week, that type of situation, it's Aaron Rodgers. So I expect him to be the difference in this game, but you're exactly right. Don't sleep because Patriots absolutely could win this game. It's going to be close. It's going to be low scoring, I expect. But hey, the Jets have I think a 10, 11-day break after this. And then, their schedule kind of softens up a bit. So this is a pretty good situation for them if they can win this game. Then they can kind of take off if everything goes right. So this is a big game for them. I think they'll take it almost like a playoff game. But of course, the Pats are going to take it like a playoff game. This is their bitter rival. This is their biggest rival. So
Absolutely. And you've got a situation where you've got, I'm going to say it, arguably the best corner in football. I don't care what anyone says. In Christian Gonzalez, you got him on Garrett Wilson. He's been putting in work on every single receiver. Even like the really only thing was on the DK, but that was not even like him just single coverage. That was kind of like a miscommunication between him and the safety. But otherwise, like he doesn't allow people to do things. So it's going to be really interesting. And Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are not like Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers yet, where they have great rapport, even though it's a really good receiver and a really good quarterback who are still trying to work their wavelengths out. And you can't be off if you're playing against Christian Gonzalez, especially if you're throwing over there. Anything off to the right or to the left, that could be a pick. So very interesting to see everything with this game. This game is actually one of the lower key marquee matchups of the week. I actually think this game has a lot of fun potential to it, even if it's just a defensive battle.
Cool. Good to see that you're both on the same page as me. I love it. I know I'm definitely taking Patriots +6. I think that's too many points for a divisional matchup against two good defenses here. The next one, this one I'm not super confident about, but I can see the scenario in which it happens. So we have the Panthers going to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. They are 5-point favorites, the Raiders are. My opinion on this game is we're going to see Andy Dalton. If that is a better quarterback than Bryce Young, they're live. That's all I got to say, is if they get at least a little bit of quarterback play, they can score 15, they can score 20, they can win this game. I'm not confident enough to bet on this one because I could totally see the Raiders just game script, control the ball, control the clock, win this game by 2 scores. But what do you guys think?
I'll go quickly. I agree with you in the sense of if Andy Dalton's a good quarterback, like a better quarterback than Bryce Young, then it's on the table. This would be a stay away from me. Like I just wouldn't, like betting wise, I'm not betting it. I do think it's possible though, because you do get, it might not be the same as a new coach influx because it's a whole new infrastructure, but like with that new quarterback I would feel a little bit more inclined to go with the upset possibly if they would have announced it like on Friday that Bryce Young was no longer going to be the starter, just so you kind of give it a little bit more deceptiveness of like, oh, we prepare for Bryce Young, now we're preparing for Andy Dalton, but now they've been preparing for Andy Dalton all week. If I had to lean one way, I would probably lean with the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to win the game, but I don't think the spread wise I would lean Raiders, but I wouldn't bet this game at all. I have no feel for it.
yeah, if you're not a Raiders, if you're not a Raiders or a Panthers fan, don't watch this game. There's nothing, there's nothing redeeming about this game at all. This is going to be an ugly game. I do think, and I want to talk about Bryce Young a little bit more later, but I do think Andy Dalton's going to be an upgrade in some capacity as far as moving the ball. Obviously, he's older. In his younger days, Andy Dalton can move a bit. He's obviously probably a little more, like a statue in the pocket, not as nimble. But the Raiders' defense is physical, it's fast. Antonio Pierce is gonna have them ready. I think Antonio Pierce played when Andy Dalton played, so he'll probably have some intel there. So it's a weird matchup at the end of the day. And anytime you see a line that's 4.5 points, 5 points, that's a line where they tell you they don't really know much about this game or which way to go. It's kind of just a safe place to put it. So, um, yeah, the Panthers could absolutely cover. They could be rejuvenated, but it could just be straight up like the game we're talking about with the Pats and Jets. I could see it being 16-12, something like that. So it's just a disgusting game all around. And again, if you're not a Panthers fan or a Raiders fan, no reason for you to watch this game unless you're a sicko. So, yeah. But I agree with you in theory, but there's really no way to really cap it with Andy Dalton. We only saw him, what, 2-3 games last year? Maybe a little more. I can't even remember. But we saw him early on.
One thing with Andy Dalton is he's been there a while. I believe he was there when Baker Mayfield was the quarterback, when they were slinging it around with Sam Darnold. Not positive on that, but he was definitely there all year last year. So he might have some rapport with this offense that just works, to the point where they're not scoring 3 points, and that could make them live. This next game, this one I think I'm going to bet on, because the Cardinals at home are 3-point underdogs versus the Lions. Lions have come out kind of stale in the first 2 games, a little bit lower than we expected in the Rams game, and then last week they lose to the Bucks. What's your take?
This feels like a game that could almost be a backdoor cover from the Lions. And what I mean by that is, like, I think this game could be played like a 3-point game the entire way, and then the Lions get like a late field goal to go up 6 or something like that. So betting wise, I would maybe do this in a teaser. Like if I was doing like maybe a 6 or 7 point teaser to bring the Cardinals up to +10, I think that would be a very good way to go about it. But I don't know if I would bet it straight, just because I feel kind of like opening night. Rams and Lions. It was a 3.5 point spread, and the Lions just happened to score a touchdown in overtime. But obviously that wasn't a 6-point game. That was a down. I mean, for 60 minutes they were tied. But if you had Lions spread, you won. And if you had the Rams spread, you lost, even though it was an overtime. So I feel like it kind of could be one of those where the Lions cover late, or like, so I would be a little weary to bet it. But at the same time, I agree with you. I think they're on upset alert. I think they're absolutely on upset alert. I think the Cardinals can win this game. I like their offense a lot and what they've been doing. And they seem like they're getting a true identity with what they have there. Kyler's looking really good. So upset alert, I'd be scared to bet it just for a backdoor cover by the Lions. But on the Cardinal side, that is. But go on, Kyle.
I feel like I'm on the Action Network with all this spread talk, with all this betting talk right here. But, without getting into it too much before, because we're going to do our picks probably later in the week, Friday, Saturday. This is obviously, you look at this game and you see it, and it looks like an entertaining game. The fact that the Cardinals are getting 3 points at home, coming off, 2 weeks ago where they played the Bills pretty good. I mean, they were up on them by 17 early on. And, week 2, they put a hurting on the Rams. Like, they killed the Rams. That was no competition. Mm-hmm. Cardinals are looking like everything Tim said they would be in preseason. So, you should feel confident if you were to bet on the Cardinals, or if you're rooting for the Cardinals, you should feel confident in them. That offense looks great. Marvin Harrison Jr. Beat the bust allegations after week 1 for sure. So Kyler looks great.
This is also a great time to get the Lions. They're still figuring out things defensively in their secondary. Their secondary has definitely gotten better. Aiden Hutchinson's doing what he's supposed to do, showing why he is my defensive player of the year so far, and he's looking like he's trying to be that. And then offensively, Jared Goff, the offense isn't humming. So, like, the offense is not rolling in the same way that it was, obviously, all of last season. They're still finding the kinks. Obviously, in a way, they're the hunter becoming the hunted. In the sense, obviously, they didn't get to the Super Bowl last year, but they were the final 2. Like, people know they were all 3 of us have them in the Super Bowl this year. We have them all losing to each respective team that we have them to, but we all have them there. So, like, we think that they're the best team in the NFC. We had them all really with the best record for, I think, all of us and getting there. But, so they don't look like they are the lion that they really are. So we'll see. This is a good time to catch them at, and cool pun. This is a good time to catch them. And the Cardinals look like they are having fun over there. So that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, I think with this line, I'm a little bit more comfortable on the +3, just because I think they can win the game. And if you're giving me 3 points, I'll take it. So
if you have them outright, then +3 is just
exactly.
And especially too, like if this line gets bet up a little bit to where you can get it at 3.5, so like a field goal game, you still win. That'd be perfect. But I like it.
Definitely a couple honorable mentions. The Rams are completely decimated on offense, but they are at home. And there is just a back and forth between the Rams and the 49ers. I don't expect them to win that game, but they are 7-point underdogs, which is a pretty large line.
That's one of those ones where they have some skill positions out, but you still have Kyron Williams, you still have Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, so 7 points at home is tough. And then also you have to think too, there's no Christian McCaffrey and there's no Deebo Samuel, and we have never seen Brock Purdy without either one of them. It's been either
Ayuk has not looked up.
I was going to say Ayuk has not been his contract. George Kittle was starting to get going once in the second half of last game, really when he came back from his cramping. He started to look pretty good. And then obviously Jordan Mason's looked really good, but I think I could probably run for 60 yards behind that offensive line right now, or run Kyle Shanahan's running scheme, because he seems to put whatever back in there. It's like, yeah, we make JaMychal Hasty run for $140 on the Patriots. It's like, okay, I guess.
Could have multiple backs go for 100+.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, we'll just throw whomever in there and they'll just go run wild on them. So, but yeah, I think that 7's interesting just because that's a lot of points, especially with a quarterback in Brock Purdy, who we have not seen without his 2 best offensive weapons, not named Trent Williams.
Then the other one was the Eagles are 2.5-point underdogs against the Saints this weekend. I think the Saints could potentially come crumbling down. I don't actually think that's going to happen, but it is a potential because it is Derek Carr. And like I was saying to Keenan pre-podcast, if Derek Carr keeps this pace up, he's the MVP, and I don't think that's the case. And the Eagles are a very competitive team. Offensively, they're going to be fine. The defense is what worries me. But 2.5 points, it just wasn't enough of a line to call it a big upset. So,
you have any quick thoughts on that, Kyle?
That's a very interesting game. I cannot wait to talk about the Saints, about the Eagles, about the stuff we saw from this past week, especially on the Eagles side of things, because that's as bad of a loss as you can have on Monday night. You made Kirk Cousins, who, primetime Kirk Cousins is a real thing. He's known for not showing up, and he looked like goddamn Tom Brady out there. That was shades of, you'll remember this, obviously. That was shades Saints. Of Tom Brady against the Saints. Like, he just moved him down easily within 1 minute, sideline to sideline. Eagles, of course, are in the prevent defense, so it makes it a little easier. But, that's a theme to me. I mean,
that was four. It was like 4 plays, easy completions, and like the touchdown wasn't even difficult. You're right. Like, I knew exactly what game you were bringing up before you did. It was Kenbrell Tompkins in the back of the end zone. It was like, all right, you give Brady a minute. All right, cool. Like, we're confident. This is great. And then Falcons are like, wait a second. Number 12 shoot up for us here? Okay, whatever. The Falcons, I think the Falcons are going to – I'm really interested to talk about all these teams. But
yeah, for sure.
Sorry.
For sure. All right, going from Tim's segment on next week, let's look back to this past Sunday and Monday, even last Thursday. Popular segments here. Fuck with it or get the fuck out of here is one. Buy or sell. I've been told I say absolutely or absolutely not a lot when I'm answering questions. So we're going to go with that for this segment. Absolutely or absolutely not. I've got probably too many topics from this past weekend of NFL, but I just had that many questions.
Never
honestly.
Too many. Never too many.
We'll start with Bryce Young, though. We'll start with Bryce Young because we talked about the Panthers. He obviously got benched on Monday, which, he hasn't been performing well, but it was a surprise to me after week 2. So I have a few different thoughts on that. But Bryce Young, this is a bit of an ESPN question, but Bryce Young, is he a bust? Absolutely or absolutely not?
I'm going to say absolutely not. I still think it's a little too early. And the biggest factor in this is the Carolina Panthers. This is where multiple first round picks, multiple top 4 picks have gone and not been able to succeed. But then as soon as they get into a situation that is much better, they do succeed. We see Sam Darnold has now been playing lights out football for the first 2 games of the season and looks like a starting quarterback, potentially even a franchise quarterback. And we see Baker Mayfield do the exact same thing in Tampa. I think the situation was terrible. They've built nobody on this team around Bryce Young, and he just hasn't really been given a fair shake at it. If the question is he a bust for Carolina? Absolutely. They traded way too much to get him. He hasn't succeeded. But if the question is he a bust in the NFL? I think it's a little too early to say. Let's get him on a different team with some pieces where he's not under pressure on 50% of his dropbacks, and maybe he'll look better.
I know you asked an ESPN question, but I'm going to not do the ESPN thing and disagree for no reason. I actually completely agree with that. If you're talking for the Panthers, it's a clear-cut bust. Like, you traded so much up to get a guy that you could have gotten the guy in Houston, like you could have gotten something else. Like, obviously you traded so much to get this guy, and this guy has not been this guy. So, especially for you guys, you benched him after 18 games. That's a bust. That's there. But I don't think it's the end for him. I think on the other end, it's only been like 18 games. Like, I don't think it's been everything's like, man, he can't do anything. They don't really have the greatest of offensive line. The best receiver he's gotten in 2 years has been Deontay Johnson, and that's cool and all. Like, he's good, but if Deontay Johnson's your best receiver, especially for a guy who was smaller, sure. Do we have our questions about him? Absolutely. I think that he hasn't been as accurate as advertised. He hasn't been as confident as advertised. A big thing about him is at Alabama, he had a lot of confidence. I mean, I have a lot of confidence too when I have the weapons he has, of course, and you have Nick Saban in that defense. But at the same time, you didn't have that same confidence. So there's questions to be had about Bryce Young. But overall, I do not think he's a bust. I think if some team gives him a chance that has the good infrastructure, they'll be good. I mean, we've seen Baker now. We would have said he was a bust, and he had a really good year with the Browns. Then he went off and did bad, and you're like, oh, was he kind of a bust? And now we look at Baker, and Tampa Bay Bucks look like a team who can go win you multiple playoff games at this moment in time because they know who they are and they're playing that way. So I don't think you can call him a bust yet. I think it's too early.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of ESPN, I saw Stephen A. call him the biggest bust of all time, like rivaling Jamarcus Russell. And you can't really be a bust because Bryce Young, he had number one overall hype, but he didn't have like true hype like, Trevor Lawrence. We talk about it all the time, right?
If this was Caleb Williams, like in 18 games, if Caleb Williams is getting benched, I don't care what talent he has somewhere else, you can call it the biggest bust of all time.
Right. And you guys hit it on the head. He was born into football hell going to the Carolina Panthers. There is not a worse organization in sports, I could argue, let alone the NFL. They
haven't had a head coach finish a season in 3 years.
Exactly.
Their head coach gets fired at week 8 till pretty much halfway through the season. It's like, yep, coach gone. Like, exactly. You can't have that for a new quarterback. Like, are you kidding me?
Right. Bryce Young, this is his third head coach. Regardless if you think he's better or if you thought he was better coming into the draft than C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, the likes of those guys, he just has not had a fair shake. No weapons, not a great offensive line, not a great run game. I do think Dalton is gonna move this offense along a little better, but how much can he really? You know what I mean? He's gonna make it steady, but he's obviously not gonna make it explosive. I know, obviously, in this era, everyone piled on to Bryce Young when this happened. You know what I mean? And how much he sucks and this and that. I actually look at this as a different way, especially how Dave Canales was described to us as like a quarterback whisperer. I think he's almost giving Bryce Young a break. I think it's entirely possible that we see Bryce Young week 8 or 9 and looking better. You know what I mean? Just kind of giving him a reset because it's completely unfair what this kid has walked into. Like, completely unfair. Not Peyton Manning wouldn't have succeeded in that offense. You name him. Any quarterback would not have. We give
Trevor Lawrence a mulligan for his year 1.
Exactly. And
we need to do the same thing with Bryce Young. Urban Meyer was there.
This has been one long Urban Meyer experiment for Bryce Young. again. I mean, I truly hope he gets the hell out of Carolina because I felt bad for him.
No, I truly do. And I think there are teams that moving forward next year that are going to need some sort of quarterback and could use him. We can go through that in the offseason more so when we see what happens with these quarterbacks. But I hope for his sake that he gets out because I think the Panthers are going to have the number 1 pick this year. And they're either going with Travis. They're either going to say, hey, Bryce Young, we love you, and we're going with Travis Hunter. Or they're going to say, hey, we're going to get a quarterback. Really just all depends on what they want to do. But Travis Hunter, my God, I hope the Patriots somehow get the number 1 pick in the draft. Oh, boy.
So, Tim, you brought up Cardinals and Lions in the last segment. I have a question for you guys. Should I be worried about the Detroit Lions and their Super Bowl prospects or even their playoff prospects? Absolutely or absolutely not?
Playoff prospects, absolutely not. Super Bowl, I'm hovering over absolutely. The offense has not been rolling. Like I said, even in week 1, they did not look up to snuff until that final drive in overtime. That's when they looked like the Detroit Lions from last year. Maybe it is what Keenan said. They were a really good team in the NFC. They kind of got that target on their back. Every team's trying to shut them down. And maybe they just figured them out. And they got to change up their schemes to get rolling. And if they do get rolling, then we're back in the absolutely not category. But I am a little bit worried about their offense.
I'm in the absolutely not for both. I think absolutely not for the playoffs. I think they're too good to miss. I mean, we've seen 2 really good teams to miss, but I think they're too good to miss. But I say absolutely not for the Super Bowl because obviously it's week 2 and you're asking this question in week 2. 49ers questions. Packers no Jordan Love right now. You've got the Cowboys are the Cowboys. You've got the Eagles defensive questions. You've got the Falcons. Can they get it together? I know people were high on the Bears coming in. Caleb Williams does not look like what he's advertised. The Rams, me and Timmy had the Rams winning the division. No Puka, no Cooper Kupp. There's been no team in the NFC has really even looked. The Saints have been that. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not ready to buy into the Saints after 60 minutes of football. Or sorry, 120 minutes of football. I'm not ready to do it yet. So like the Saints have clearly looked like that team in the NFC. We'll see if this can continue yet. Or even if it does, then maybe we can be singing a different tune, but absolutely not on both. I think they've still looked like a top 4 or 5 team in the league, to be quite honest with you. Like if you really are breaking everything down, they haven't played it, but they're still a top 4 or 5 team in the league. I don't think you can take them out of that. Every team's look bad. I don't think we take Baltimore Ravens. We'll probably maybe get to them, but I don't think we take Baltimore out of like their good category anymore because they're 0-2.
I am worried about the Lions. Just in general, I'm worried.
Fair.
But they're kind of saved by the Jordan Love injury because Caleb Williams clearly is not ready to take the next step, right? I mean, he looks like a rookie, right? He looks like a rookie. I fully expect, again, you'll hear me say this quite a bit over the first 4 weeks, but there's certain teams, the Lions included, certain players like Caleb Williams that around week 8 or 9, I expect to look a lot crisper. But the fact that the Lions don't look crisp and don't look, for instance, how the 49ers looked week 1, that's very concerning to me. And to lose to the Buccaneers were way more ready for that game than the Lions were. I'm not sure. I'm truly not sure if that says more about the Bucs or the Lions. And of course, we will find out. That's the beauty of the NFL season. We'll find out pretty immediately. The Lions, that's why it's kind of scary, is they have an immediate test here with the Cardinals. Cardinals look crisp on offense. Cardinals are ready to go. So if the Lions aren't, I mean, they could just get behind the 8 ball.
They have a few tests. We'll know who they are real soon because they have the Cardinals. Then they see the Seahawks, which is a tough game. It's not an easy one. And then they go to Dallas.
Right. And
Dallas is not an easy game, of course. I know we don't all love the Cowboys, but not an easy game.
Right. And I mean, we've seen just how many injuries we've had to quality players early on in the season. All it takes is the Lions to suffer a few early on here and also be, let's say, 1-3, 1-4 for it to really just spiral out of control. So very important game against the Cardinals.
We've seen crazier things happen. I could say that.
Few ways I could go here. We could go, I'll ask you guys in general, and then I'll phrase the question. Do you guys want to go Bucks off the Lions? Do you guys want to go Ravens off the Lions in a similar situation? You guys want to go
Bucks.
NFC South in general? You want to go Bucks? All right.
We'll go Bucks, NFC South. Let's stay NFC and then we'll move to the AFC. I'm gonna quickly just because I just jumped into it, unless you have the same question.
Oh,
question.
I do got to phrase the question after that. So, Bucks 2-0.
Okay.
Bucks made it to the divisional round last year.
Yep.
Should we take the Bucks as contenders? Absolutely or absolutely not?
Absolutely. But Timmy, you can go first. I'll wait.
I'm actually more in the absolutely not category. Contenders, if we're talking Super Bowl, I'm not in yet. We've seen a little bit of injuries to the offense. Rashad White is dealing with some stuff. I think it's just a trust in Todd Bowles. I know, Kyle, you talk highly of Todd Bowles, but whenever I think of Todd Bowles, I think of New York Jets Todd Bowles, and that is just, you can't ever put him into a contender status. So I think I'm a little hesitant.
I will say this about Jets Todd Bowles. Jets Todd Bowles is probably the best head coach they've had since Rex Ryan. I think they went 500.
I was going to say Rex Ryan was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rex Ryan's the best one,
That's
but
fair.
I think Bowles is the only one who's had like real success there, which is just moderate.
That's true. It was a similar to success the way they have it now, where it's just their defense was good and they kind of could run the ball. I personally am not ready to be like Todd Bowles is a contender. Maybe when he was just defensive coordinator and Bruce Arians was the dude there. But right now I'm going to say absolutely not. A little too early. Maybe week 6 I can make a better judgment.
Here's the thing about the Bucks. There's a couple points. I think absolutely. One, this isn't like a fluke like the Saints where they were kind of middling, and then they just wow. Like the Saints at the end of the year last year, great, and then the beginning were wow. Like they actually went to the playoffs. They beat soundly the Philadelphia Eagles, who we all have making the playoffs and winning the division. And then they played with the Lions and then beat the Lions just barely. And we all have the Lions again making the Super Bowl. We all have faith in the Lions still, at least to make the playoffs right at this moment. We had them making the Super Bowl. We have them all in the playoffs as of this moment in time. I think this Bucs team, they know exactly what they are. They know exactly who they are. Baker is not scared of any moment. And I think when you have a quarterback who can make plays down the stretch of a game, who is not going to be afraid of any moment, you do have a chance. I know with this team, we were talking this exact same, like pretty much exact same team. Obviously, they filled in some pieces here and there. But pretty much with this exact same team, we were feeling like Tom Brady was able to take this team to Super Bowl status. I'm not saying, obviously, Baker's not Tom Brady. I'm not trying to make it seem like that at all. Baker's not Tom Brady. But I think that with the NFC and how it's looking thus far, that they absolutely should be in contender status because they were in the Elite 8 last year. To think they couldn't get to the Final Four, I think they killed it. And if you're in the Final Four, then you have to be in contender status. You can't get to the conference championship game and not be a contender.
I'm going to respond to the Todd Bowles thing, and I'm going to relate it to my answer, okay? My thing with Todd Bowles is he can at least, and I think I mentioned this last week, he'll at least get your teams ready to where they beat the teams they should, which a lot of NFL coaches don't. Like I would say a large segment of NFL coaches don't, even ones who have a big rep. And I think because Todd Bowles is quiet, you see this with Jim Caldwell too back in the day. He coached the Lions. These quiet guys who don't make a lot of like ruckus in the media, as soon as they have just this like 500 season, maybe slightly below 500 season, I feel like they got kicked to the curb a little quicker than guys who've had terrible seasons. And that's my thing with Todd Bowles. I think he's kind of underrated because he's a quiet guy and we don't hear from him. And last year, they took care of business against teams they should beat and maybe lost against teams they should lose to, right? But played them close at least. Segueing into this week or this past Sunday, they play someone who we all three of us picked to go to the Super Bowl and beat them soundly, outplay them. That's got to be a check mark for Bowles, for Baker Mayfield, as Keenan said. I will say absolutely just through week 2, just because they did that. That surprised the hell out of me. I sure thought that the Lions would right the ship, look a little more crisp, and they really didn't. And, you know, Bowles, his specialty is defense. So I will give the Bucs a bit of a nod for that because that's a big-time win. They look a bit crisper. Chris Godwin, looks like he's all the way back for someone who had a pretty mediocre previous season. You couple that with Mike Evans, a decent run game, and Baker Mayfield just looking confident. I'm already ready to reverse. I think I had Baker Mayfield at 12, Keenan, when you did your quarterback tier, and you had him in the top 10. And I kind of argued it. I would absolutely have Baker in the top 10. He's through 2 weeks. Granted, it's only 2 weeks, but this is why we're asking these questions. It's okay to overreact. Baker looks good. The Bucs look good.
We're in a reactionary game right now. We see what happens. We talk about what happens. We have to try to project, but it's reactionary. We can't obviously be projectionary and everything right now.
Personally,
one thing I do want.
I'm done doubting the Bucs after the run they made last year, after what they look like through 2 weeks. I think at least 2 out of the 3 of us picked the Commanders to upset them in week 1. I know I did. So
we all did.
I'm done betting against or just counting out the Bucs in general. So,
and to kind of bounce right off of that, Kyle, because we're talking a little bit of their schedule wise, they play Denver this week, they play Philly next week, and they play Atlanta. I think that Philly game is going to be very interesting, but that Philly game is at home. It's not in Philadelphia, and we know what that secondary has been. We know what that defense fully has been. So Baker Mayfield could have a field day. And the last time he played them, he had a field day. And then you got an Atlanta team that's going to be in Atlanta, but will they be fully jiving yet? Atlanta's looked like a really good offense for one drive. I mean, they've put together some drives here. Bijan's looked really great, but they've looked like a great offense for a drive. So we'll see if by that point Atlanta's looking good, because they could be 5-0. I truly think that they could be 5-0 going into their game against the Saints, and that Fox matchup could be a marquee matchup. What?
I
don't know.
Bucs should at least be 3-1 going into that Atlanta game. At the least,
I 3-1, and I'll see how they look against Denver. I might have them going. I might be predicting them to be 4-0 going into Atlanta. We'll see.
Staying on the topic of the NFC South, Keenan kind of already answered this question, but the New Orleans Saints, contenders after 2 weeks, absolutely or absolutely not?
Absolutely not. I already said it. If they're a contender and this continues, Derek Carr is MVP. I don't know many people that are comfortable saying Derek Carr is going to be MVP. So absolutely not. I think all the talk lately has been Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator, came over from San Francisco and just implemented their offense right in. Last year, I'm pretty sure the Saints were like dead last in pre-snap motion. Now they're number 1. They're making it easy for Derek Carr, confusing defenses, and it's working. They've scored on 15 consecutive drives. It all looks great, but this is still Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints. This could come crashing down any minute. So way too early to say contender. If they're keeping this pace up week 6, then this is the Atlanta Falcons with Matt Ryan when they just came out of nowhere and went to a Super Bowl. Then that's the case. But right now, absolutely not. Too early to say.
We do have these random teams that do come out of nowhere. It seems to be from the NFC South, apparently, because we had the Panthers here. Obviously that Cam team was like, oh, they're 7-9 in the playoff, or 7-8-1 in the playoffs, and 15-1. But so I mean, I guess, but no, I absolutely not. I don't think that this team is. You said contenders, correct? Let me just make sure I want to make sure the words were correct. Contenders, absolutely not. Like, I think you now have to. So as of this right now, you have to semi take them serious as like a playoff threat. Like, to get to the playoffs, you'd have to take them semi serious for that. But absolutely not. We've seen teams start off hot and then fall off. I mean, we even saw a Steelers team get to 11-0, and people were still like, I don't know about, or the Cardinals team that got to 10-0. Like, don't know about them, and then they fell on their face, kind of like that. So, I mean. Right now, absolutely not. I want to see it for more. Even though Derek Carr over his last 7 games was 17 touchdowns and 2 picks or something like that. Like, Derek Carr has been playing great. This team has been playing great from the tail end of last season to the beginning of this season. So I'm also not putting faith in Dennis Allen. Can't do it.
Well, it is through 2 weeks, right? So we can only react through 2 weeks. And
oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, we have to do a little projection to figure out what they're gonna do in the play, like if they're gonna be in playoff contention, you know, kind of.
So much of the NFL is based on not only schedule, not only how you finish, but how you start. And
Mm-hmm.
the Saints are as hot as anybody through 2 weeks. And, we mentioned the Eagles
Hot as
matchup.
fish grease.
Hotter than fish grease. Now they get the Eagles. Is that in Philly or in the Dome? Is that in New Orleans? Where's that at?
That's in New Orleans.
It's in New Orleans and a weak secondary. I mean, look, we just talked about the Panthers and how garbage they are. Saints put what, 47 up on them?
Mm-hmm.
Then they get the Cowboys, who I think we all can agree. We'll say they're a good team, just base level good team at the least, right?
Yeah.
Some would even call them fringe contenders. And the Saints took their lunch, like absolutely took their lunch, put 40 plus on them. That's got to be contender status if we're just talking about 2 weeks. I'm not saying I'm buying all the way in, but I'm not saying I'm all the way out either. You're giving me a dome team who's now getting a reeling Eagles secondary. I think the Eagles offense is okay, but their defense isn't where they want to be. And Derek Carr, we talk about Baker Mayfield. I was saying a couple weeks about Kamara. Like, when he plays and he's not injured, he looks great. Carr, second year in a system, looks great. Carr still, if I had to guess, what is he, 31, 32? It's not like we're talking about a 35-year-old quarterback here. He's still got juice in him. He's still got some legs. He's not a mobile quarterback, but he's a guy who can kind of get out of the pocket. He's playing with a ton of confidence right now. And when the dome's rocking, when the Superdome is rocking, that's one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. And I say it all the time in the beginning of the year. Week 4, you're 3-1, 4-0. Winning is intoxicating in this league. All it takes is a couple wins to get that team chemistry going. And the Saints got it already. Saints got it through 2 weeks. If they do this again to the Eagles, which is not out of the question, all bets are off. All bets are truly off. I don't know what the rest of their schedule is off top, but I mean, you'd have to favor them against the Falcons right now. Bucks, that's going to be a fantastic game. Yeah, I cannot wait for this Eagles game. That's one of my favorite games of the week. And I'm not saying I'm all in on the New Orleans Saints, but I'm about 85% in on the New Orleans Saints.
Well, we'll know how people really feel about this team by the second week of October. They play Philly. They go to Atlanta. They go to Kansas City. They play host to Tampa. That is their next 4. We will know exactly what we think of this team by the end of that.
All right. I got a few more for y'all.
Yep.
We'll keep it NFC for right now before I go bigger picture. Give you a couple out of the NFC West, actually. Rams, we've talked about their injuries. Season over for the Rams? Absolutely or absolutely not?
I think I'm kind of leaning absolutely here. I think missing a month with no Puka, no Cooper Kupp, I think they just potentially lose all 4 games, and I think that's going to push them far enough out. Being 0-2 currently, to go to 0-6, maybe they win 1 and they're 1-5. I think it is fair to say absolutely season's over, nothing they can do about it. All it takes is somebody to roll up on Stafford, and then he goes down, and then we've seen that happen all too many times. So I'm definitely leaning towards absolutely here, which is extremely sad to say that, me and Keenan picked him to win the division. I picked him to go to the NFC Championship game. It is extremely sad to see it end like this.
So I have absolutely, but they can make it absolutely not. But I have absolutely. And here's the reason why. Their next 3 games, San Francisco, at Chicago, versus Green Bay. That Green Bay game, they should have Jordan Love back by now. He's questionable this week. He was technically questionable last week, which we knew he wasn't going to play. But so by that point, Jordan Love should be back. Chicago's offense may not be able to get rolling, but their defenses looked great. Both games, their defenses looked great. They held Houston to 19. Obviously, they pretty much won the game against Tennessee. So if there's a good chance they could be 0-5. If that's the case, it's over. if they can manage to win 2 of their next 3, which I'm not putting it like out of the realm of possibility, maybe you get a nice division win and you can split that NFC North. That's 2-3 going into the bye, because they have a bye right after that. And if you're 2-3 going into the bye, you get Puka and Cooper cut back, and then your next 3 games are Las Vegas, Minnesota, Seattle, and then Miami. And we'll see and then New England. We'll see what Miami looks like with Tua, if he's back or not. Obviously, that's a big question. But there's a world and there's a possibility for this team, and there's a path. But they need to win 2 of their next 3, in my opinion. I don't think they can do that, so I have absolutely not. Or I have absolutely that they will not be, that they're done, but there is a path for them not to be.
I'm going to say absolutely for right now. Look, I wasn't all in on this team. I think I had them at 7-10. I could be wrong. I got to go back and look. But my reason for keeping them out of the playoffs was injuries. I thought they were thin with depth. I thought they had the talent to make the playoffs. But this was my exact worry. I did not think this would happen by week 2, going into week 3. But their week 6 bye is a gift in that regard. So that almost gives them life. The fact that Debo and McCaffrey are out for San Francisco, and that's such a bit of a rivalry, and the fact that rivalry games are literally just playoff games. Like and
it's at home too.
And it's at home, and there's a million times where we thought, no way this team wins, and they pull it out some way, somehow. Yeah, you mentioned in the last segment, Tim, like I think the Niners are favored by 7 points. That's entirely too many just because of the injuries. Even if Debo was playing this game, I'd say 6 points. You know what I mean? I would say the Niners should win that game. But the fact that they looked a little rough last week against the Vikings, which is a different story because Flores, he gave them trouble last year when the Niners went to Minnesota. The Rams defense, a little more questions than that, right? But it is a divisional game. They're playing for their season, essentially. If they can pull this one out and, like Keenan said, maybe get one of the 2 against Chicago, catching Chicago at the perfect time, though their defense looks good. But McVay's specialty is offense. If he can scheme something up for them to just get by with Matthew Stafford and not get Matthew Stafford killed somehow in the meantime, they will still be alive. If they can just get to 2 wins, even 1 win. If they can get to 1 win going into that bye, it's a long season, and they'll have just enough to stay afloat barely. But after that week 6 bye, it'll have to be playoff time from here on out. But I'm saying absolutely because that division's too tough. There's too much in front of them. Obviously, weirder things can happen. Injuries can happen. But right now, I can't see them going to the playoffs. So absolutely, their season's done.
They have the middle of their schedule is fortunately light compared to, so like they really need 1 out of the next 3. You would have to go on a heater after the bye, but 2 out of the next 3, you can realistically get yourself to 7-5 going into your final 5 games. And if that's the case, then anything is possible. Because when you out after the bye, you have Vegas on Sunday, but you turn around and have Minnesota on Thursday. But coming off of that Minnesota game, you have to go to Seattle, but you do have a 10-day break. So, like, you do have that time in there. If you're going to go to Seattle, that would be the best time to do it. Hopefully coming off of 2 wins. And then you get Miami on Monday night. And then you see New England at New England. And then you see Philly. Like, if you are the team that we think you can be, that can be a 5-1 stretch. Honestly, it could run the table. Theoretically could run the table because if they really are hot. But that could be a 5-1, and that 2-3 could turn straight into 7-4. So, like, that's kind of the path there. Obviously, it has a lot. That is a lot. But if you want to make your season not have to feel like the end of the world because of early injuries, you've got to get at least 1, if not 2, of your next 3.
All right, a couple quick ones here. This one's a little wide-ranging. The Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. All 3 are either leading their division or tied for the lead in their division. Absolutely or absolutely not. These teams are true contenders for their divisions, for division champions.
For division champions, I think absolutely. I think The Steelers are in a situation where, the Ravens and the Bengals have now both started out 0-2. They've got a 2-game lead. If you're telling me the Steelers are coming into the season with a 2-game lead on them, I'm going to say they're live for it. So definitely the Steelers, which hurts me to say. And then, sorry, the other two teams.
Seahawks and the
Seahawks and
Chargers.
Seahawks
Chargers.
also 2-0. Chargers also 2-0. All these teams um, definitely live for their divisions. I think the Chargers is the tough one, just because with Kansas City there, it is always tough to win that one. So I would say they are definitely live. If you're asking me, can they win or make it to the playoffs? 100%. All these teams are live for playoffs. Um, so I would say that they're definitely in the fold of winning their divisions.
I would say each of them are live to make the playoffs, and I would say the Seahawks and the Steelers are live for the division. I wouldn't say the Chargers are live for the division, and that's just solely off the Chiefs. If they were in any other division, I would say they were live for the division. I just think that the Chiefs are they just know too well. It's to the point kind of like where we obviously are now comparing them to the Patriots, where it was just the Patriots, even if you had a really good, like, oh, the Bills look really good or the Jets look really good this season, whatnot. It was like, until I see them actually win the division with a healthy Tom and a healthy Bill Belichick, obviously there, I'm not picking any of those three. With a healthy Mahomes and Andy Reid there, I can't pick anyone to win that division over them until I see it. But the other two, absolutely, 49ers and 49ers a little disarray, Rams in shambles, Cardinals young team. So the Seahawks absolutely can do that. And then the Steelers, the Bengals, and Ravens are both 0-2. Fortunate for both of them, they haven't played division games yet, but they're both 0-2. And then throw away the Browns. So
Throw away the Browns.
for me, to throw the I don't think the Browns are great. So for me, it's still throw away the Browns. Yeah, I could be wrong. I can be wrong about that later on. But for me, it's don't worry about the Browns leading them going to win the division. Throw away the Browns between the Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers.
Interesting. And maybe we'll talk about that more when we do our picks later on. But I don't know. That division, the AFC North, is still as entertaining as any for me. And I almost feel like any one of them are live in that division, just because you just never know what can happen. Starting with the Seahawks, 2-0, they eked it out against the Patriots, eked it out against the Broncos, and really the difference was Geno Smith. And they get a gift here, getting the Dolphins without Tua. I already like the Seahawks in that game just because of their home field advantage, just because of Tua on the road, Tua in big games, and now you don't even get Tua. So that should be a win for them. They should be 3-0 going into this Lions game. You're catching the Lions at the right time. You get the Giants after that. Then you get another divisional game with the 49ers, or another challenge, I should say, with the 49ers. But even them, they're banged up right now.
We don't know about McCaffrey should be back by that point. We don't know about Debo. They both of them should be back, but we obviously never know with injuries. So, like, one, if not both of them, could be out for that 49ers game or that Seahawks game. And if that's the case, tough.
And that Lions game, after the Dolphins game, that'll be in Detroit, so that's a dome, so that's favorable for the Seahawks. So I do like their prospects. So I will say absolutely for all three of these guys being live. Two of these teams face each other this Sunday with the Chargers and the Steelers. One of the games I'm most looking forward to, because the Chargers have won completely ugly. The Steelers, I mean, let's be real, both of these teams love playing prison ball. You think prison ball is basketball? No, this is prison ball football right here, and it's as ugly as hell. We might walk out of here with a 9-9 tie for all I know on Sunday. Mike Tomlin, man, I mean, we say it every year. We're like, one of these years he's going to go 8-9 at least, right? He's going to just go slightly under 500. And they've scored one touchdown. Again, play complete prison ball. And here they are 2-0, living off Chris Boswell. Chargers looked a little better. Obviously, they had the Panthers this past Sunday. So, I mean, what can we really say about that? They faced a JV team, but they did what you're supposed to do when you face a JV team, and that's beat them the fuck up. So I cannot wait for that matchup. Again, it's going to be ugly as hell, but I think it's going to tell us a lot about both teams. You guys didn't ask, but how I said earlier, how Bryce Young will eventually resurface, I believe, with the Carolina Panthers. I think Tomlin is gonna use Russell Wilson and Justin Fields like pitchers. Like if one of them's not playing good one game, he's just gonna sub in the other one, and we will see them almost as much as the other throughout the entire season, just based on how each is playing. Obviously, Russ is injured right now. I think they will start him when he comes back, but I think each will have a short leash, and I think he believes honestly that both could win for him. So I think all three are live. I think we'll see Chargers Chiefs in week 5. Maybe it's coming up pretty quickly, so we'll get some read on that. Chiefs haven't looked
Week
great.
4.
Week 4. Oh my god! So we're right around the corner. Couple more questions for you guys, and then we can go to some more general topics. I know Keaton, you have a few more questions. Baltimore Ravens. Maybe I should have asked this after the Lions because it's the same question. Do I have reason to be worried about the Ravens' playoff chances? Absolutely or absolutely not?
Playoff chances? Absolutely not. We see this almost every single year with the Ravens. They will lose a game that they're not supposed to lose. I'm not positive about last year, but 2 years ago they lost to the Giants. So if that's saying anything, there you go. They're going to figure it out. They've been in both games. You know, they're one
The
play away
Colts
from
last
being,
year. Sorry to interrupt, but it was the
Exactly.
Colts last year in overtime in that game where Lamar just threw a bad. And in the Steelers game, obviously wasn't like going into a Steelers game. Those are the games that you know are just weird. But Lamar threw a terrible interception in that Steelers game where they should have won it. Go on.
Mhm. I think they'll figure it out. They've been in both games. They're 3 points away from winning last week. And you guys are sleeping on the Raiders. I'm telling you, they're going to be a good football team. They got a good defense. The offense did just enough to get there this week. So um, I don't have worry about them being a playoff team. And if they make the playoffs, I still think they're a contender. So no, absolutely not. Not worried.
I'm actually absolutely on both. I'm absolutely worried about them being a contender right now, but I'm absolutely worried about them in the playoffs, and it has to do with their schedule. So they're at Dallas this week. I understand we just saw the Saints beat up the Cowboys 1-2. Lamar's like 20-1 against the NFC because preparing for Lamar Jackson's like preparing for no one. You can't really prepare for him. So I get it. But the Dallas Cowboys are still a good team. They can win that game and no one's going to be like, "Oh my god, Dallas won at home." Like before this game in the regular season, their last home game was week 1 in 2023, I believe, or 2022 against the Patriots, not Patriots, the Bucks, when Tom Brady was there. It was opening night Tom Brady was there. The last time they had lost at home in the regular season before the Saints game. So the Dallas is typically good at home in the regular season. Then they go and they see Buffalo. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Buffalo. That's a team that knows exactly who they are. They know their identity. We're going to play Josh Allen. You are going to be the guy. We're going to try to lean on James Cook in this running game. Defensively, we have enough pieces to where we can get things done. And then they go to Cincinnati. There is a real chance they are 1-4. Can they make it up from 1-4? Yeah. But they have a first place schedule because they won the division, and that is going to be tough. And at that point, if you lose to Cincinnati, you might split tiebreaker, but you wouldn't have the tiebreaker over Buffalo, maybe Kansas City, and Cincinnati. I'm absolutely worried. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying I'm worried.
So you agree my feelings are valid. You just ran through it with their schedule. They got it going into that Commanders game after the Bengals game. They've got to at least be 2-3, and coming out of that Commanders game 3-3. Because
then Tampa and Cleveland are next to, and those are not easy games.
Exactly, and they got
both on the road.
They got the Broncos mixed in there, but in between all their easy games are either divisional games or just tough games. So this Sunday is a must-win against Dallas. They absolutely have to win, or I'm damn near writing them off just because of their schedule and because of the division. The Bengals, they can win. The Browns can win. The Steelers can win. They can just flat out win games against each other. That division is a crapshoot when it comes to the divisional games.
And the thing too, Kyle, just not to cut you off exactly, but the Bengals probably they play the Commanders and the Panthers. Regardless of how they do it, they should be 2-2 going into that Ravens game. The Ravens could be 0-4 if not 1-3. So that game could, like, the Panthers could think to themselves, and it's at home, we can almost knock them out. So they're going to treat that like, I mean, every game's a playoff game when it's a divisional one, but they're going to treat that truly like we may not have to worry about this team if we can beat them right now. I just want to put that out there.
Going off that, and we can just keep this one 30 seconds apiece before I get to my last one, but we'll bridge it from the Ravens to the Bengals. Should we be worried about the Bengals? Absolutely or absolutely not?
I think they're in almost an identical boat to the Ravens. I'm not super up to date on their schedule, don't really remember, but same thing. I think they're kind of live in every single game, so I think they can definitely bounce back. And I think they have the Washington this week, so almost pencil that in as a W, and they could bounce back right here. So I'm as little worry as I have for the Ravens, same exact level for the Bengals.
I think the Ravens and the Bengals are pretty much on the same level team-wise, but I'm absolutely not worried about this for the playoff consideration, specifically off the schedule. If you were to give the Cincinnati Bengals the Ravens schedule and the Ravens the Cincinnati Bengals schedule, I would have the same kind of outlook, where I'd be worried about the Bengals if they had the Ravens schedule, and I wouldn't be worried about the Ravens if they had the Bengals schedule. Because right now you have Carolina and you have Washington. Those should be 2 wins, so you should at least be 500. And what I saw you guys do against the Chiefs, you guys played the Chiefs down to the last second like you normally do. So that still tells me that you can compete at a high level with the top teams. You then have Baltimore. Even if you lose that Baltimore game, you have a Giants game after that. I think you can be still 500 after 6 weeks. And if that's the case, then you're still live, especially because towards the back half of your schedule, you have games against Denver, you have games against Tennessee, you have games. I don't think that the Raiders are going to be as good as Timmy does, so I think you have a game against the Raiders that's easily winnable. And then with your division, at least if you can split there with your division, that is 9 wins that I just penciled in. Find one more out of the 5 games you have, and you can get to 10 wins and get to the playoffs. So I would have them at absolutely not due to their schedule and schedule alone.
It's weird because that's exactly like why I was so bullish. I think I had the Bengals winning the division. It's sad that I don't remember, but I believe the reason was because of their schedule over the Ravens. I think I had them at 11 wins actually winning the division, had the Ravens at 10, right?
Yes.
The fact that they're 0-2 and they lost that Pats game, but more concerning to me, quiet as kept, that Chiefs loss was just as bad as the Eagles loss to the Falcons on Monday night to me. That Jamar...
The 4th and 16 can't happen.
4th and 16 can't happen, and that Jamar Chase play can't happen. If you've been to the Super Bowl, if you've made deep playoff runs like the Bengals, that cannot happen in a week 2 game against the Chiefs. Keenan, you mentioned that felt like a playoff game. What is Jamar Chase doing? We call him elite. We call him one of the best receivers in the game, and he just lost his cool. That's not even something Terrell Owens would do. You know what I mean? So literally either one of those plays does not happen, that 4th and 16 or the Jamar Chase play, they win that game. They should have won that game going away, truly. That Jamar Chase play was just embarrassing from a veteran team.
It was because like that turned a 3rd and 7 to a 3rd and 22. Thankfully, Joe Burrow knows how to play quarterback well and is not just going to try to take the long shot and try to get all 22 because he got enough to get into McPherson range for the field goal. So he left with a field goal to get up 25 to get to 25. But like they easily could have gotten a first down and could have went for a touchdown, and that changes the entire complexion of the game. And obviously, and then the 4th and 16 penalties at the end of the game when those two are playing, that just can't happen. Like, don't run through the guy. Like that was as unfortunate as it was when I was like, of course they're getting bailed out by a flag. That one wasn't a controversy. That was just pass interference. He just completely hit the guy. And he hit Rashee Rice in the back way before he was there. So like that one's just pass interference. Unfortunately, it was just like another game we're going to see that comes down to a Harrison Butker field goal because it got into field goal range because of a penalty late in the game. And so I was like, man. But you're right, Kyle. There's Jamar Chase, and I saw what you did. You subtly threw it. You threw Devontae Smith's stats and Jamar Chase's stats, and Jamar Chase in a few less games, but they had similar stats, and it was one of those things where you were like, this guy is supposed to be top 3 to 5 in the league. I get, obviously it's not the same exact amount of games. There's a few different, but still, this guy's supposed to be that. He was acting, he wants to get paid like Jefferson. He wants to get paid like CD. He wants to get paid at that kind of level. You've got to produce at that kind of level consistently. And it's not because you have a bad quarterback.
Yeah, that stat was more so like just an eye opener. Not so much that Chase doesn't deserve the money as much as maybe Devontae Smith is underrated. And, it was kind of like the stats that Tim brings up, Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones, like some of those will just surprise you. And you could probably do that over the course of history with any two players. But that was a very interesting one I stumbled across today, sent it in the group chat. This is my last question, though I have plenty more topics. Speaking of Trevor Lawrence, we spared you today. We'll talk about you when we're talking about next week's games on our next episode.
So Timmy might not be Raiders. He's 50-50 on, like, the Raiders are like, okay, they got a good win because it's something. He looks right about the Cardinals, and he does look right about the Jags so far. Those are two. So, and if Timmy's 2 for 3 on bold claims, a 67% clip on bold claims, we're gonna have to just, if this continues, we'll resurface all 3 of those preseason, and you better get your flowers.
Calling out the haters. I will tag them in the videos at the end of the season.
You're gonna send it to the guy who DM'd you.
All right, last one
That's
here.
funny.
For me, absolutely or absolutely not, through 2 weeks, the Bills are the best team in the AFC.
If you're saying number 1, it is too tough. But if you're saying tier 1, absolutely. They're a top 3 team in the AFC. I think it's tough to say number 1, but offensively they've looked it. Defensively, the Cardinals kind of lit into them. And then the Dolphins. If Tua doesn't get a concussion on that play, that game completely different. They were driving. If they score there, it's now a 10-point game. They can definitely make that an interesting one. So I'm going to say absolutely not on the best team, but tier 1, top 3 team in the AFC, absolutely. It's crazy to see that. They lose Stephon Diggs, and Dalton Kincaid has not been like featured in this offense, and they're still putting up points just like they would normally do. So
the top team, absolutely not. The second best team, absolutely. The Chiefs have earned the right to be the best team until beaten in the playoffs. I understand. And the Bills have played a little bit better than they have looked, but they also have looked better than them last season and the season before in the regular season, especially in September. Like the Bills are really known for September, October being their months, and then them kind of fading off, going up and down depending on it. But they've been really good in September for the last few years. But second best team in the AFC, absolutely, and I would firmly put them at the second best team in the AFC. And Kansas City is the best team in the AFC until beaten in the playoffs, regardless of record. To me, just like whatever they are the best until proven.
What I'm about to say is, completely against this little segment. You could call it bitch made, but I'm going to say maybe. And the only reason I'm going to say maybe is because, like Tim said, Tua leaves that game. Bills should win that game. I was on the plane when Tua got injured, so I did not see the majority of that game. So I can't say. All I know is they're 2-0. I will say their Week 1 win against the Cardinals is more impressive than either of the Chiefs wins to me. I don't think the Chiefs look right. Then we find out Hollywood Brown will not be playing at least in the regular season. So that is something we should be worried about.
6 to 8 weeks too.
Right? Exactly. Yep. And Travis Kelce, MIA, which is honestly kind of to be expected. I think they're going to treat him how the Patriots did late career Gronk. They want him ready in November, December, January, really January if you're the Chiefs. and it really depends on how the division shakes out, like how much they'll need him, if they need him to tap into that well early. So I'm going to say maybe for right now, but I mean, I'd probably pick the Bills. Like in general, I'd probably pick the Bills, but it only gets a little crazy when you give the whole Tua thing. If they beat them with Tua, then I would absolutely say yes, absolutely. They are the team to beat in the AFC. But I do think they're the quiet team right now in the AFC. And I'll say it like this. I've said this many times, how much of a fan I am of Lamar, right? I'm not necessarily a Ravens fan, but I do want to see Lamar do well. I want to see him in the playoffs. When I saw the schedule and that they have the Bills next week after this Cowboys game, I was kind of scared to death for him. More so than I was in week 1 when I picked the Ravens straight up. I feel like the Bills are the better team going into that game regardless, given the Ravens' talent, given how good their offense and defense can be. We just haven't really seen it from them so far, really, besides Lamar and Isaiah Likely in the week 1 game. So I'm going to say maybe, more leaning towards absolutely, and we'll give it an absolutely, I guess. But again, if they would have beat Tua, it would have been a full 100% absolutely. Keenan, I know you had some questions. I know you had some topics. Do you want to save them?
To be quite honest, no, to be honest with you, everything that you had, like that we touched upon, you kind of already did with all of your questions. So everything else we definitely can get to when we discuss picks. But a couple things I want to say off of that, and then we can do what we do. One, if the Bills and Chiefs were to play on a neutral field right now, I'm taking the Chiefs, which is why I think they're the best team in the AFC.
I'm taking the Bills.
Which is why I would go. Okay,
it's a coin flip.
Really I'm taking I would take the Chiefs in Buffalo, but I mean that's not really here and there until I see them actually do it in the playoffs in a meaningful game. I'm taking to the Chiefs.
Right.
That's one. Two, the thing with Buffalo right now is though, I actually feel more confident in them beating the Chiefs right now than I did before.
So,
and the reason.
Let me cut you off. When I say neutral field, or when you say neutral field, Bills Chiefs, we're talking week 3. Right now, I'm taking the Bills. If that hypothetical game was taking place this Sunday, this Saturday, whatever, I'm taking the Bills. January,
regular season wise, I guess. Then yes, I
January neutral field, January wherever. Of course, you got to give the edge to Kansas City, to Mahomes, to Andy Reid, all them. But as of right now, I
understand what you're saying more.
As of right now, I would take the Bills.
Understand what you're saying more so then, because for me, when I was saying neutral field right now, I meant like winner take all kind of game 3, not like regular season game 3. Like if next week was, even though it's September, if next week was, if you win this game, you are in the playoffs. If you lose this game, you are not in the playoffs. And there's something on the line, I am taking the Chiefs regardless of where the game is played. But I do understand what you're saying, though. Like, if like just next week on the schedule, it happened to be Bills Chiefs, I get why people would take the Bills, and I think the Bills absolutely could win that game with just a regular season game that's going to have playoff intensity to it.
We are getting that game later on, right? That's like
we are getting
10,
that
11, 12 game or something like that.
I do think, though, that the Bills are better suited to beat the Chiefs now than they were before, even though obviously they've been in real close positions to beat. There was the 13 seconds where obviously Mahomes gets down to the kick a field goal to get to overtime and blah, blah, whatever. But like all of that stuff, like I understand they've been really close. But trying to beat the Chiefs at their own game never really works. It was the same way when I always felt, now still cross comparison between the Patriots. Anytime the Patriots got into a shootout, never was concerned. I truly wasn't. The only time it really didn't work out was the Super Bowl because Fletcher Cox thought he was cool. But like other than that, like when it was a shootout with Tom Brady, I don't care who the quarterback is because that means at some point he's got the last chance at some point and he's going to come through. It's when you can muddy up the game, when you can muck up the game, that is when the Chiefs have been at their most vulnerable. They have made their team to a sense like they actually can play that style of football now. We saw them win a championship last year playing that style more. So it's not like they can't win that way. But if you told me the Chiefs lost a game 42-35 or 20-17. I'm going to pick 20-17 rather than the 42-30, even 38, just to make it a little closer. Because that means if Mahomes is hot and the offense is hot, I don't think you beat them. Just regardless, I just think you'd have to make sure you score your last points with 0 seconds on the clock. Can't be 1, literally has to be 0. So I feel like the Bills are better suited right now to beat the Chiefs than they were in years past because of the way they're constructed.
Okay. All right. So, Tim, you alluded to it in our very first segment, very first topic. Thursday night, we got Pats going to the Jets. You said you feel confident in them to at least cover. Let's make our official picks here for tomorrow. So, I don't know, Tim, if you want to start, Keen, if you want to jump in, whoever, go ahead.
Timmy, I'll let you start it because obviously you brought up the hypothetical of, well, not really hypothetical, but you brought up the spread and everything like that. You kick it off.
I'm going to take the Pats. I think they're going to win this football game. I think it's going to be a defensive bloodbath. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot from offense. I think you can just take a lot of unders in this game. I'm going to take it 16-14 game winner, field goal at the end of the game.
I like it.
So I want to quickly just say this, Kyle. As a Patriots fan, we went into the season with can we get to 5? I'm feeling like we can get to 9.
Whoa, shit. All right. 9? I'm going to say 6.
Here's the thing.
9.
Listen,
9.
I'm not saying that they're going to, but I'm saying there's a world now. I'm this week with the Jets. I'll give my pick in a second. But next week you get the 49ers?
In San Francisco.
I don't care. Brock Purdy. We'll see what Brock Purdy looks like without the Avengers this week, man. And then Miami without Tua?
Is that the game that follows?
Yeah, it's the game that follows, Kyle. That's what I'm telling you. And we go to San Francisco on 10 days rest. I'm trying to tell you, these are not. Then we see Houston. Yikes. But Jacksonville? The Jets at home, maybe? The Titans, the Bears? We'll see if Trevor's gotten it back. Caleb's gotten it back by then. The Rams, we'll see if Puka and Cooper Kupp So I'm just saying, I actually am going with the Patriots as well here. I got it 21-6. I got it 20-16. I think that
3 touchdowns is generous.
Listen, I watched.
You got a 2016. You got a 2016 Pats.
I've got it. Actually, hold on. Let me just see what this would be. See. 21-18, and it's going to be 3 or 4 field goals, a safety, and a touchdown.
Patriots.
Listen,
You got the Pats, though. Pats are winning.
Patriots, yes, absolutely. Patriots winning 21-18, actually. And it's going to be 4 field goals, a safety, and a touchdown. I'm telling you, this is going to be a weird game, and the Patriots are going to be able to make it weird, make it odd, and Aaron Rodgers, they're going from Tennessee to New York, their home opener. I get it, but they haven't been home. They haven't. You said it, 3 games in 11 days. This is the Patriot Kool-Aid, man. I'm sipping it.
That's Subway.
Keenan's calling it right now. Brock Purdy injured this weekend, decimated 49ers.
No, we want Brock Purdy. Give us Brock.
We can handle it.
Give us Brock. Give us Brock from Pokemon. What is he going to do? Brandon Ayuk's getting the strap. Doesn't matter. Christian Gonzalez is there. Getting the strap. I'm telling you what. It might be the upset. Let the Patriots win this game.
I think there's more than Kool-Aid in that Subway cup.
Did me and Keenan switch bodies?
I was gonna say.
Usually
anybody picking the Jets?
Usually I'm the one who's overconfident in the Pats. I will say, Keenan, you did sell me a little bit on, I thought you were going from 5 wins to 6 wins. You said 9. I could see maybe 7, especially where they're catching these quarterbacks, especially how good their defense plays. I love Gerard Mayo, man. I remember, speaking of that Saints game with Tom Brady, Gerard Mayo got injured that game and was out for the season. And that might have been his last game that he played with us. Just Just thinking about that. I'm pretty sure that happened anyway. I could be completely. Actually, it might have been Will Fork. Doesn't matter. I just sound like a fucking lunatic right now. I want to say that just to say Gerard Mayo is a beloved Patriot. Like I said this in the preseason predictions. He immediately took Teddy Bruschi's spot. Was immediately, I think he was an All-Pro like his second season. Like he was an elite middle linebacker. Then he comes in week 1. We beat the Bengals. He then makes
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
I just want to your memory is great. He wasn't done for his career. He was done for the season, but it was in that Saints game.
It was in the Saints game?
It was. He got injured in that Saints game, and he was done for the remainder of the season.
Towards Achilles. He played a year after that?
So here's what happened. He played, that was in 2013. He got injured. They won 30-27. He was out for the season. He started 6 games, didn't play all that much, and then he got injured for the rest of the season, played 1 more season, and he was out. So pretty much
he played up
close
until
to
2015.
the end of the career. Yes, it was pretty close to the end of his career, but just want to say your memory is right there. He did get injured in that game randomly enough.
That's crazy.
Shout out to the Patriots.
That's crazy. Shouts to my memory. It's still got it. Some days it's got it. When it comes to the Patriots, I guess, was working up to where after that Bengals game, Gerard Mayo won me over. I didn't know he was funny like this. He said Jacoby Brissett is the slowest black QB in the league. Hilarious. So I'm all in on the Gerard Mayo era. I said in the preseason, all I wanted to see was competitiveness. All I wanted to see was some direction, and we got that. Man, I feel like anti-Kyle. Like I feel like I'm not myself here because I'm actually picking the Jets to win, pretty much for the reasons I gave earlier. If there's any quarterback you want in this type of situation, 3 games in 11 days, your first home game, off a wild just West Coast to Nashville to now your first home game against a bitter rival on a Thursday, a bitter rival with a good defense, a bitter rival that's going to make you work. All signs are pointing to them losing in exactly the fashion you guys are saying, but this is one of the quarterbacks you want. Aaron Rodgers doesn't look all the way back, but he doesn't look rusty either. I think he does enough to get this done. Shouts to the slowest black quarterback in the league. I like how Jacoby's playing. I'd like to see a little more, though. I don't think they get it done. But I'm not all the way out on the Pats, Keenan, after the little soliloquy you gave about what they got coming up. Some injured quarterbacks, some banged up teams. They are well coached enough to where they could take advantage of that if they stay healthy themselves. Hunter Henry looks good. Ramondre looks good. That secondary, aside from a few busted plays against Seattle, looks good. I think that's the strength of their team. They're not missing Judon at all.
It's upsetting because there's a true world right now where they could be 2-0 and looking like they're 3-0 going into San Francisco. So it's really tough.
I say all the time, I'll give you my score first, and then I'll give you something right here. 21-16 Jets. We'll say 22-16 Jets. 6-point win. Weird score right there. So I got the Jets winning. I'll say that. So in Nashville, I was downtown. I walked across some Jets fans, and they were doing JETS, Jets. And we had a little kumbaya moment where I said, listen, I fucking hate Jets and Jets fans. Hate the Jets. Hate all of you. But I think you're winning the division. And I said that as a Pats fan. They said, you're actually going to let us win a division? And I said, yeah, you guys got this one. As you guys know, I picked that anyway. But little kumbaya moment where Pats and Jets fans connected. But for the future of this team, to circle it back to Bryce Young, I'd like to see Bryce Young come to the Pats, compete with Drake May for that number 1 spot. I've said it here a million times. I want as much quality. If I was running a team, I'd want as much quality in the QB room. I don't like it when teams have just a bum-ass backup quarterback after a star quarterback. I want a quality backup. So I wouldn't mind to see them bring him in, give Drake May some competition. Hell, Jacoby in that room too, all 3 quarterbacks. That would be cool going into next season. But we will probably see Drake May sooner than later, even though Jacoby looks decent.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about this game tomorrow. Yeah. The fandom is here. Fandom is real. It might be delusional, but I don't care. Listen, let the Patriots win this week, And even if they don't, let them play fine
Hey,
this week.
if the Patriots win,
I'm gonna
you
be
might
singing the
see me
tune
become
next
a little
week.
delusional.
I'm like 95%.
The Pats win this week.
I'm
you
about
might see me.
95% there where I think I'm going to predict this upset over the 49ers. It has everything written all over it. 10 days. If it was at home, he would book it, but it's on the road. It's on the road, but no McCaffrey, no Debo.
We'll see.
Ayuk with Christian Gonzalez on him.
We'll see how that
We'll
Amazon
see if
Prime
Brock Purdy can
video
deal with
special
just
goes.
Jawan Jennings.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yes, we will see when the Patriots win. I'm going to be very excited about it. But Warner Brothers Podcast, that is Timmy, that is Kyle. This is Keenan. Appreciate all of you guys. This was a lot of fun breaking this down in the way that we did. I cannot wait for these upcoming games and around the corner. Something Kyle and I are super excited about, which is the WNBA playoffs. That is going to be that's going to be fun. We've got a lot of storylines, a lot of parity going on in those playoffs. I think there could be a lot of either upsets, changes, or things that happen that you don't think could happen. But Warner Brothers Podcast, we appreciate all you guys, and we'll see you guys very soon.